I mean, it was so random because we started to do research, and I remember because you filmed.
Well, as soon as Pierre said Wales, we weren't going to be. And you didn't really have to convince her. And I know, like, at least me and Liz, we do kind of just prefer the sea as well.
Well, me too.
I wasn't 100% sure. I remember you called me, and we'd come with the concept of having kind of, for the human element, having a person in the image.
A subject.
Yeah. So that basically the viewer would hopefully see through Susanna's eyes what we were filming, just to kind of ground.
Yeah, it grounds the whole thing in a way. Because I think at one point we were talking about us just filming each other. You know, I mean, we didn't like the idea.
Well, I don't like it.
Because I'm sorry, no one wants to see a fat middle-aged woman in front of a whale. There'll be so much difficulty in working out what is what. And having one person and having a marine biologist who understands the importance of not disturbing animals means that we could be confident that we were having minimal impact on the animals.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we've all been really keen on right from the very start, is minimal impact to what we're actually filming. When we were there, they were certainly applying for their B Corp, and they work with the university and with other research institutes, so they have scientists who come and do their research alongside. We didn't just go out with them to do the filming, we actually went on a whale watching tour, which from my point of view as a trained marine mammal observer was really impressive, because they were collecting data, they were informing all of the guests about the behaviour that we were seeing, they were explaining why we weren't going too close, they were explaining that there were laws restricting drone use, that you couldn't get in the water with whales. It was brilliant, because over here we have guidelines, but we don't have any legislation to protect large marine animals. And there they were very, very clear that the whale's welfare is the most important thing.
Yeah. You know, we were out for sort of like 8-hour days, weren't we? Just
longer
at sea,
sometimes.
Just eyes peeled, looking on the horizon for whales.
Our body tense for hours. Get
in the sea.
And actually that's something, so with dolphins, particularly dolphins like spotted dolphins or bottlenose, they're often attracted to the boat, they come to you. And I knew that sperm whales behave differently, but I had no idea how sensitive they were to noise. So if you make any noise getting into the sea, the sperm whale will be like, nope, despite the fact they can be 45 tons, dive, gone.
It's quite random though as well, because I mean, I guess they're just different behaviours, but you come to some and they just have no interest in you, they just stay there.
Because they had their own personalities.
Yeah.
How many dolphins did we see in the whole trip?
I started counting, and I stopped about 3 days in because I couldn't keep track. But we saw spotted dolphins, bottlenose, common, Rizzos, killer whales.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, you saw killer whales, we didn't.
You two took a day off.
We bunked off and went to a rainforest.
I needed to rest.
We saw, I think you'd gone, Liz, because we'd started going to the back of the island.
Yeah.
We saw spotted dolphins, like deliberately annoying the sperm whales whilst they sleep, so they swim amongst them and like bump into them and stuff to just piss them off.
It's hilarious because
it's just amazing.
It's like little kids running up to a doorbell, pressing it and running away. Yeah, the footage that we have, and there's a shot in the moonscape, and you can see their social behaviour, that they're hugging each other, they all go together and they hug each other by rubbing their bodies.
I think that's the most amazing thing, isn't it? I think you'll probably agree with this, but just seeing them interact with each other, you know, they're so...
Well, to see a group, because at first we weren't sure, well firstly we didn't know for sure we'd see any, so to even see one, let alone multiple groups.
I think after day one we knew we'd see a few at least, but you had some particularly nice encounters, didn't you, whilst you were filming?
I'm trying to think of the most memorable.
You got the shot of Susanna swimming in front of them, and I think there's 5 or 6.
Oh yeah, that was the last day, the very last day.
And that's when we were like, finally we've got the shot.
I had no idea that sperm whales were such gentle social creatures.
Yeah.
And I think that in the moodscape that comes through.
Definitely.
And what I love is the juxtaposition of human impact on land. So when Suzanne was walking down that beach, and when we first got there it looked pristine, and then I think it was you, Matt, that pointed out there was all this litter on the beach.
Yeah, massive. I mean, you've seen the video.
Yeah.
Huge ropes.
We talked a lot about that,
nets.
didn't we? About like how much we wanted to show the sort of more negative side of what we've done to the ocean. And
well, I think as kind of doing like documentary and stuff, we kind of owe it to be truthful, don't we?
Yeah.
Because some people go there, they'll show, don't only extract and release the highlights in terms of aesthetic, I suppose. Whereas actually, you know, being in 2022 back then, the world isn't as pristine as maybe it should be. So I like the idea of being truthful, showing kind of the whole of what we saw.
Yeah, and I think again having Susanna, a scientist, be our focal point, our person, you can see her genuine reactions to the litter, to the pollution, and to the whales themselves.
Yeah.
I think it's really powerful, and I love how you captured the mystery of the islands themselves. I do remember when we were filming, like there was a lot of, oh no, the fog's come in. We're a volcanic island, but you caught some brilliant footage.
You liked that, didn't you?
I liked
the fog coming in. I liked it, but I also thought this is going to make it really difficult to film some of the stuff.
Yeah, but you need the movie stuff.
Yeah.
If it's hard, if that was when we were out at sea, that would have been a nightmare. But luckily it's mostly on the land.
Yeah.
But it's great for the kind of tree shots, drone shots you're getting of the trees, because you get the depth a lot better.
And I love that sequence on the shingle beach and then the black sand. So basically we walked along the bottom of this giant cliff in this misty, we were all soaked, and it was...
that was on the west side. I was just going to ask, is it...
I quite like that sort of raw nature of it as well, though, because we spent a lot of time, you know, just actually being outside, getting soaked, getting cold from being in the sea and stuff, like actually really like immersing ourselves in the environment there. Yeah.
And even though it's just an island, I was amazed at how diverse it was. When you compare the east to the west, that west side you were just talking about, almost like some jungle from Jurassic Park, whereas the eastern side was very volcanic, had a lot of the kind of iron shore-esque rocks.
Yeah.
There's a lot more kind of...
So yeah, I remember you two working on a script. I remember you working on
different interviews,
talking about whether it was a male voice, a female voice, or a conversation. I remember seeing an early draft of a script that was like, I was like, wow. But at the end,
it just didn't feel quite right. It
didn't feel right, and I think that what you've created is perfect, because it's like, this is what we experienced. You can interpret it how you will.
Yeah.
And I think that by doing it this way, you've actually made the Azores.
Yeah, I like the soundscapes, but I like what Liz was saying about the concept of, by removing the narration, and when we cater all these facts and whatnot, like Liz said, we're basically just telling the viewer what to think.
Yeah.
When it's that thing about, what's it called? With
Yeah, well no, but that's it, and that's, I mean, I think there was a few, I mean, we did one draft of the script before we went, and then completely sort of rewrote it, I think, a few months later. Yeah. We put in a lot of, I think I became more interested in the idea of not telling, and so I think we put in some different sort of like elements of poetry and just words to like, I guess like guide the viewer, and each sort of iteration I just like liked it less and less. I just thought like, you just need to sort of watch it and think your own thoughts. Yeah.
Less is more.
Indeed.
Less is more.
Well, I remember one time I was in the water and you were on the boat, and you actually got a really good shot of the whale passing the boat, and you were really excited about that.
I actually got a bit of footage where some of you were in the water, and I shoved the GoPro over and leaned right down, and I've actually got, I mean, it's 3 seconds or something, is above and then seeing it dive, and you see how steeply the whale dives. I've never wanted to be taller than in that
There's
moment.
one bit of footage you got, I don't know if we're talking about the same one, but where you just sort of scream because it's diving. You're like, I've got it!
Yep, that would be the footage. I was like, yes! I've got some footage!
I mean, that's something that I was quite pleased by going to the Azores, was the difference in, that's testaments to the water clarity they had there, because obviously we had to kind of swim out a bit to get to get closer to the sperm whales, but like you said, even from the boat, the fact we could actually see tangible, usable footage of the whales, their clarity is probably 3 times
at
more
least
clear than our waters. So it meant that even though some of us, because there's only 2 people allowed in the sea at one time with the whales, the other people that were on the boat, we could still kind of plug the GoPros and cameras in and still actually get good footage and actually see, like you said, behaviour, see them diving down and interacting from the boat. So
I think the other thing is, like, when we're in the water, we're having to dodge man-of-wars, weren't we?
Yeah, that's something that was surprising, was the sheer amount of
just
man-of-wars.
almost every 3 metres in some
and
areas.
also the size. So over here we get Portuguese man-of-war and they're this big,
Yeah.
and there they were the size of this. The bell was
Really? No,
Yeah.
I didn't. Okay, I think that's a bit big.
okay. They were.
I didn't know about that bit.
But they were significantly bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was probably...
There's a few times where I turned a corner and it was like one in front of me, and I could just see the tentacle going off into the distance.
And that,
I think one time it was either you or Susanna in the water, and I was like, wait, because I could just see it in front of me.
We had basically the people in the boats had to, because they had that kind of almost bird's eye perspective.
Yeah, they'd shout.
We all had our hoods on and stuff. People were shouting, go left, go right, because they could see.
Yeah.
I think actually, out of the whole time we were there, the most prevalent animal we saw probably was the Portuguese man-of-war.
Yeah, absolutely.
I actually think so, even more than ants or something.
My favourite bit of footage overall is, I don't know if we got it in the film, is when we thought that little turtle was in trouble. And actually, because it was so close to a Portuguese man-of-war, initially I thought it was a plastic bag, and then we got closer, I thought it was a Portuguese man-of-war. It's like, oh no, it's being attacked. And then when we got close, we could actually see we were interrupting the turtle's lunch as she sort of pulled in the Portuguese man-of-war to eat.
Amazing. So, what did you prefer filming then in the water? Dolphins or whales?
Definitely whales, but that's just because of, I suppose, the rarity. Knowing the weight of that, you had to go through extraordinary effort to be even allowed to be able to film them.
You got quite close to one, didn't you, actually? You got incredibly close. I think more by accident, because you were sort of going like that and it was coming that way, rather than sort of in parallel.
Yeah, there was a very specific movement that we were told to swim.
Oh yeah, you were very calmly just sort of bobbing along in the water, and it just sort of comes in front of you, which you caught on camera.
So we always had to let the animal essentially, we're allowed to swim parallel with its movement. We weren't allowed to swim
behind it,
directly to it, behind it.
Yeah.
And then if the animal chooses to turn, I guess, left towards us.
So if it's an animal-led encounter and it changes behaviour, that's fine.
Yeah. But they did seem to be pretty curious, even though I guess they probably see the boats every now and then. But
yeah, I mean, I guess in a way, because there's so many rules, they're probably not like used to it on a daily basis, but they obviously used to hunt whales in the Azores, which they now do not, and they've just become, I think they've adapted, they've become calmer around boats and people.
I always find it delightful that some of the best tour operators who are most respectful are actually ex-whalers who understand the importance of the nursery pods and how they have to be protected.
I don't think any of them particularly enjoyed hunting whales.
No, I think it was necessity, and they didn't use modern industrial whale boats. It was the traditional ones that the animals had a fighting chance. It's still awful that it happened, but it wasn't industrial.
I think you think if they were doing it today, the technologies they could use, there would be no whales left in the ocean.
No, there wouldn't. You've got this epic footage of this giant worm.
Yeah.
I was watching, I was like, oh my god, I didn't even see that
Yeah.
I
footage.
never actually found out what that was.
It's a giant ragworm of some description, but this happened with the blue as well.
Yeah,
So it was
right.
only when we were at the premiere, and I was sitting beside Matt, and I actually punched him because I was so excited at some of the footage he'd got, and I was like, I had no idea you got that animal
Yeah.
on film.
Sometimes we're so lucky, we see, I mean, sometimes I even forget what I see.
Yeah.
When I was looking through the other day at the footage, there's so many, because sometimes it's just one shot, and then whale was probably one of the best animals to utilise that connection, not only for the sheer size of clarity and visual, but also because, I guess tangibly, you know, if you get close enough you can see their eyes, and, you know, it's been written about them having a soul, and, you know, because they're big
I
as
think they do.
yeah, people think.
Well, they look
About-
back at you, don't they? I mean, lots of animals look back at you, but like you
Yeah.
say, I think the scale is quite a good
Something-
sort of catalyst to,
Yeah.
to project that.
And the image of some of us being smaller than something larger speaks volumes. It being an animal, because it's actually, I don't know, psychologically that's a bit easier to imagine the whole world, if that makes sense. I don't know if that does.
Yeah, it does. It highlights that we aren't actually the most important thing on this planet,
Yeah, exactly.
and we get really egocentric and believe that we are.
Yeah, way too far, people crazy.
Yeah. Do you want to wrap it up?
I'll wrap it up. I just don't have the words to describe that feeling of joy. I mean, we were out for hours, and sometimes the weather, I mean, one day I nearly got hypothermia, Matt got sunstroke.
I actually
We had-
few times.
We had a day where we saw like nothing until like the last hour before we were going to go back, and then we were suddenly in this school of flying fish, and I think actually David said it best. His favourite dolphin are common dolphins, but there's nothing common about them. And every time he sees them, he has such joy. And I think we had that every time. One day when we were coming back, we ended up in a super pod of common dolphins, and they were literally racing I mean, all of us, like our smiles were so big. We were trying to shoot a scene with Susanna, and it's like, you've got to look pensive. We're talking about pollution. And because we were seeing all of this incredible stuff, all of us were walking around with these massive grins. I think it really highlights that nature is good for our mental health. And the more time we spend in nature, the more connected we are, and the more we realise how vital it is to us.
And I suppose what we really want to say is, don't watch this film, just go out there and enjoy nature.
Watch the film, but also go out and enjoy nature.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's a good place to end.